Recording in progress.
A very good morning to all my dear students, and I'm glad to receive your morning wishes. Mr. Sarthak, Surbhi, Riddhi Saurabh, Chakshu, Gopal Krishnan, Shambhavi, Shiba Khan, thank you so much. Manisha, Ajit, Piyus, Harshita, and all those who have sent lovely morning wishes. A very good morning, dear students. And I'm super proud of you all to read that you have revised Partnership Act, and I'm glad that you have done your LLP as well. And I hope you have clearly understood the differences also between partnership and LLP. Definitely, Mr. Reddy, I am also super excited to have a new session with you today. Thank you so much for your lovely kind words. Ms. Bhumika, thank you. Jyoti, Sridhar, good morning. Good morning, Danish. Even I welcome you all back to my session. Good morning, Shibham, Gupta, Talat, Miss Hira. And I'm very glad to share with all of you those who have cleared their CA foundation with great marks in law. I really feel proud. Institute is proud for all those who have made a mark. And I'm really hoping and wishing all the very best for all of you, my students as well. And the only thing you have to remember is, I always tell my students, law is a memory game. So if whenever you feel there are too many sections, too many case laws, just remember one thing, children. बार-बार बोलकर learn हो जाता है. So when you keep repeating, when you keep reading the text again and again, you keep doing the quizzes, the MCQs, the kind of things that we do with you, helps you to save the information over here. And once it gets saved over here, nobody can steal it from you. So you have to learn it well, you have to revise it well. So Mr. J, Mansi, Rashmi, Dhruv, Mayur, Gupta, good morning children, Pooja, Vidhi, Deepshika Yadav, Sneha, Vaibhav. So when I find it amazing, many children say that, ma'am, my name is mixed. So Ritu, Dhruv, we have two Dhruv, okay, Sangeeta, Pratibhan, Vaibhav. Good morning, all of you children. All right, Mr. J, good morning. Dilip. Okay, children, so do you have any idea what we're going to start with today? Quickly send me the name of the act, the last act that is left in your CA foundation syllabus. How many of you know the name of the act? Can you tell me? No worries, Dhruv Shah. It's absolutely fine if you were not able to clear your attempt. My good wishes to you. And always remember, children, if you face a failure, you know the real value of the success. So rising a ladder is very easy, but after failing, when you have to climb up the ladder again, it is a little difficult. So you are the ones who create histories. When you prove others that, once I failed, but then I proved myself right. So be strong. We have lessons of life to be learned from you. We learn from children who fail and then try to clear it up. जो clear हो रहा है वो तो पास हो ही गया. So success generally उसी को feel होता है once you fail and you try to achieve it once again. So all the best. Thank you so much, Shiba Khan. Even I'm very joyful to see you and have you. I can't see you all, but I'm glad to have you. I can feel you when you write back to me. So I can feel your presence. Definitely, Mr. Deepak, we will be talking about descriptive questions as well. Even in today's session, we will be having certain descriptive questions answers. In bullet forms, if you ask me about 1, 2, 3 points, it is not advisable to make points for the descriptive case studies. If you'll refer to my previous lecture of the second last lecture of Partnership Act, I have shared a case history with you, a case study. So you can just go through. I have shared how you have to write an answer to that. There should be 3 paragraphs. One is concern provision. Second will be a paragraph of facts of the case. And third, we talk about the conclusion. And great, all of you are absolutely right. Mr. Kusum, Deepshika, Manta, Akash, Abhinav, Mohammed, Santosh, Riddhi, all of you. Definitely, we are going to start with Companies Act 2013. So welcome all of you to the new session, and a new chapter that we are going to start today is Companies Act 2013. And I'm super proud of my students that now they know that the full name of the act, they have correctly told me. It's Companies Act 2013, which was earlier Companies Act 1956. So all of you know now, in 2013, a major amendment happened in the Companies Act, and now it is known as Companies Act 2013. So we have children learned about partnership. We learned about how to make contracts with each other, how we do the trading, business, how we try to do the sale and purchase of goods. Remember when we were selling chocolates? How many of you remember when we were talking about the specific goods? We were discussing about the sale of that specific Oreo flavored chocolate. So there I was a seller, you were a buyer. So we discussed about the contractual provisions in that. After that, we moved into a partnership act. We thought that a sole proprietor who is running and doing a business of sale and purchase of chocolates really want to invest a huge amount of money. So when I was running a departmental store alone, who was I? I was a sole proprietor. I was the only owner of my shop and I was doing all the sale and purchase and trading activities on my own. I told you, if a sole proprietor hires an employee, then that employee is not a partner. Remember when we discussed about partnership? That employee is an employee of my organization whom I pay a salary. So who was I? I was a sole proprietor. But we all know that in order to expand business, we need huge investment. Definitely, correct. Zyada paisa chahiye. More capital is required. So I thought, why not form a partnership with two of my members who are sitting over here in the class with me, Miss Priyanka J and Mr. Pulkit. Wow, Mr. Pulkit has written that I have really achieved good marks in law. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pulkit. I'm really happy to read this comment and I hope you best for the future as well. Don't to worry, Mr. Asha Babu. Definitely everything will be all right. Okay, before I get carried away with your messages, let me come back to this thing. Yes, Mr. Chakshu and Miss Priyanka. So they form a partnership with me. So I called up Miss Priyanka and Mr. Chakshu and I told them that, you know, I'm running a sole proprietorship and we are into the sale and purchase of chocolates, something which really excites you. So why don't you join hands with me and let's form a partnership business. Now, the motive of forming partnership business for me was that as a sole proprietor, what do I have? I earn the profits, I eat all the profits alone. But one major problem, unlimited liability. So much huge debts I have to pay to my creditors, suppliers. The business was really doing well. So I thought, why don't I start a partnership form of organization? So I called up Mr. Chakshu and Ms. Priyanka and they joined a partnership firm with me. And we made a partnership, Harleen, Priyanka, Chakshu Associates. So all the three chartered accountants we became and we form a partnership together. Now what happened? What did we learn in partnership? So we learned that all of the partners have come together and we are running a business. The motive of the business is to earn profits and we share the profits. We divide it in the profit sharing ratio. And another disadvantage that the partnership firm had was unlimited liability. So now you know the meaning of unlimited liability means if I have the creditors whom I have to pay 1 lakh rupees and my capital is just 50,000, then balance 50,000, Miss Priyanka, Mr. Chakshu and Miss Harleen will have to bring their personal assets from the home and dispose them and pay off the creditors 1 lakh rupees. We cannot leave our suppliers and creditors unpaid. In case of partnership firm and sole proprietor kind of organization, we have huge unlimited liability pressure. So after that, what did you do? You thought that partnership gives us a flexibility of a partnership agreement and it has a burden of unlimited liability. So is it advisable to form a LLP? I think that is better. So again, we met for a cup of coffee and we thought, yaar, ye to bahut mushkil ho raha hai. Liability to phir unlimited hai. So now let me take some another names because you keep writing, ma'am, please take my name also. So Mr. Sameer Singh and Miss Mamta Jain. So I met Miss Mamta Jain and Mr. Sameer Singh. I told them that I want to expand my business on a larger scale. Although I form a partnership firm, but now I want to get rid of this unlimited liability. So now with Miss Mamta and Mr. Sameer Singh, Harleen ma'am formed a LLP. So it was ABC LLP. Now I got the benefit of limited liability. Now what happens is, children are still sending me queries. I hope you're paying attention and listening. I'm trying to tell you how a company is formed, why the need of company arises. So please pay attention. Again, as I always tell you, 2 full hours of attention with your copy, pencils, notes, heads down, screen, look at the screen, listen carefully. and sit silently and just pay attention so that you can grab the information. It becomes very easy and you learn the chapter then and there only if you just pay attention. So the only request to all of you is just pay attention. We'll go back to the queries also. Somebody still keep writing. Yeah, Bhumika is saying, yes, ma'am, LLP would be great. Definitely. Okay, Neha Sharma and Priyanka, everybody. Okay, now please, all the eyes and ears back here. So now we formed an LLP. So we had the flexibility of partnership and now the liability got limited. So little bit burden was off the shoulders. Now what happens is these are all different forms of organization. You set up a sole proprietor, you went into a partnership, you want to get rid of unlimited liability, you form an LLP. But if you really want to expand your business on a large scale, so we thought maybe let's form a private limited company. A company body corporate symbol de dete. Although the LLP has also given me a separate legal entity concept, which you all must have learned by now. Similarly, a company is also having its own legal existence. So we thought of forming a private limited company to do a business on a larger scale. And in case you want to expand your business to a huge level, you want to invite the public to invest in your company, you can even form a public company. So the maximum strength, the maximum scale of business that you can do is at the length of a public company. So it says it all depends. Nowadays, we also have the concept of OPC. What is the meaning of OPC? My children know what is the meaning of OPC? It means one person company. So a sole proprietor, rather than forming partnership, LLP, private company or something, can straight away form a one-person company as well. What is the major difference between a sole proprietor and a one-person company? So let's go back to the same example. I'm running and doing the business of sale and purchase of chocolates. And I thought, why don't I form a company? So I read in CA Foundation the concept of OPC and I went to the registrar to get myself incorporate as a one-person company. Now law says since you have formed a company is different and the shareholder, who is the only single shareholder, that person is different from the company. That is all what we're going to understand today, how a company is formed, what happens when you run a company. You have already learned when you are running a partnership, you have mutual agency relationship, you are sharing the profits in a profit sharing ratio, which you have decided. In a company, we have shareholders, members, directors. So in CA Foundation, we'll be learning a very limited part of the Companies Act 2013. Now, why do we call it Companies Act 2013 and why it was known as 1956 earlier? So children, government keep making changes and amendments in your Companies Act or any other acts and rules and regulations. So how an act is formed? First of all, you all know by now how an act is formed. A rule book is made. So all the rules and regulations related to companies were written down. All the clauses, subsections were written. A bill was made. And once that bill is approved by both the parliaments of the government, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, they approves it, then that bill becomes an act. Now what happens from time to time, government keep trying to bring in the changes and amendments in certain kind of the acts. So 2013 was the major year in which entirely a Companies Act was given a new shape. So if you'll see in your RTPs also, they keep sending you the amendments. Recently also certain amendments came in Companies Act. Even in 2014, 2015, rules were amended. So on and off amendments keep coming. We always have to take into consideration those latest amendments as well. What is the meaning of amendments? Changes. So as the economy keeps changing, the government, the ministers, they try to keep incorporating the Ministry of Company Affairs. All the discussions, meetings are held and they try to incorporate the changes. Say, for example, when we'll do the definition of a private limited company, I'll teach you that there is a minimum subscribed limit of capital for investing. So what is that minimum subscribed limit? That keeps changing, varying from year to year, as and when the government decides that is the particular limit that you have to follow when you're forming a private limited company. So many types of rules and regulations were made, and 2013 was the major year when the major changes and amendments were made in Companies Act. So why I tell you this thing? Because if you try to refer, see, study material is the Bible for us. Nothing is going to come out without the study material. It's not possible to clear the exams. First of all, remember this thing. So study material is the most elaborative book along with my notes. If you're following all that, it's sufficiently fine. But still, if you feel a reference to any other book, maybe you have your BCom old books or any other books you want to refer, please never give a reference to Companies Act 1956 because that's an old act. Whenever you pick up any book for reference, always try to figure out for Companies Act 2013 because 2013 के बाद Act में काफी level पे changes आए थे. So we always try to study the latest amended Act. And if you have the latest updated study materials for your May 2022 exams, so that is absolutely fine. Even if you have the old study material, website is there in just front of you. Just a click of button away, you can open up the study material, try to compare it if there are any changes, try to incorporate it in your old study material as well. All right. So that is how we understand about how a company is made. So we have different types of companies. So when I will be talking about the classes of companies, children, you will understand that when we go to classes of companies, we have not just private and public company, we have n number of companies when we talk about classes of companies. It may be a one-person company, it may be a government company when the government is having a stake in a company. More than 51% of the shareholding is held by the government, then it becomes a government company. Many of you must have heard in your accounts about holding and subsidiary company. Do you know what is a holding company, subsidiary companies? Even if you don't know, we will be talking at length. We will be doing n number of examples about what is a holding company, how a subsidiary company is formed, how a relationship is developed, and then we have associate companies. So n number of companies, which most likely we'll be taking up in the next session when we talk about the class of companies. In today's session, we'll try to cover your features, the basic features. What is the main characteristics? What happens when a company is formed? What is the main statute? What is the main characteristic associated with a company? And a very, very important and again one of my favorite topic, which is full of case laws and case studies, is a corporate veil theory. Now again, there is a twist in the story. Whenever a child opens up a corporate veil theory, वो इतने बड़े-बड़े नाम पढ़कर ना, Daimler Company Limited and Guilford Motor Company, Salomon versus Salomon, and the book gets shut down. Oh God, क्या है ये? So tough. So I understand because I was also a CE Foundation student once upon a time. So when I used to open up a Companies Act book, I also used to have my head spinning when I used to read the names of those big, big case laws. But trust me, today when I'll make you understand those case laws in a shape of short stories, by the end of today's class, I'll be asking you questions and you will be the one who will be sending me the names of these case laws. So that's my challenge, and let's accept that challenge that we'll try to learn the names of the case laws today in the class itself. We won't be feeling any more scared of these case laws. We'll try to understand the short stories and we'll try to apply them in our examples, and you will be naming me when I take your quiz at the end of the session. All right, so challenge accepted? Definitely good. So after that, we'll be talking about share capital and shares, and the last topic on the last session that when we meet will be about memorandum and articles of association. So as in partnership, when we were forming a partnership, we were having an agreement among us. In companies, we have our MOAs and AOAs. So what are briefly MOAs and AOAs? Like in partnership, we have a partnership deed. Instead of agreement, let me call a better word. That is a partnership deed that we were following. So we were having all our details in the partnership deed. Anyone wants to do a business with my partnership that I opened with Mr. Chakshu and Ms. Priyanka. So they'll just come and read a partnership deed. It will tell them what is the nature of business, how many partners are there, what kind of business we are doing. So now anyone wants to do a business with me. Say, for example, Harleen ma'am has set up a company. Let's name the company ABC Limited. So it's ABC Private Limited. So now anyone wants to do a business with me, they will simply come and read the Memorandum of Association of that company. The MOA basically describes what is the object of setting up the company. So it has different number of clauses, a name clause, object clause, authorized capital clause that we will discuss when we'll do this chapter of memorandum. But as of now, because we'll be using these words, children, when we are talking about companies, these are very general terms like MOAs, AOAs, corporate veil theory. So by now in the first class, you should know the meaning of these basic words. So memorandum, you can just understand as of now, it's the basic document, which say, for example, Mr. D wants to invest in my company. So there is Mr. D who wants to invest in ABC Private Limited. So now this Mr. D is trying to become a shareholder in a company. He will be obviously curious to know what the company is into. So he will ask for the MOA of the company, that is Memorandum of Association, and he'll try to read what the company's objective is. So MOA is something which tells you about the basic objective why the company is formed and what is the business of the company. So before investing into any company, you are advised to read their MOAs so that you know that what your mindset is. Say, for example, you think that I'm into shoe business, but actually I'm into a business of selling chocolates. So then if my MOA says that I'm into business of chocolates and Mr. D invests wrongly thinking that I'm into shoe business, then it will be Mr. D's fault, not the company's fault. So it is very, very important to read Memorandum of Association before you take a call of investing or taking up shares in any company. Similarly, what is AOA? Now, these articles doesn't mean the articleship that you're going to do. It is articles of association. Neither it is articles that come in the newspaper. So once a child was asking me, ma'am, articles means the articles that we give for publication. No, it is not those kind of articles. These are the articles of the company. So AOA is the short form given to the articles of association, which generally tell you the rules and regulations of a company, how the company is to be run, how many shareholders are there, number of directors to be appointed. Now, how the directors are appointed, how the meetings are held, that is part of your CA inter syllabus. We will not be touching that part. So that is whole of your CA inter is full of prospectors, meetings, directors. Companies Act is very, very vast, children. In CA Foundation, we are just trying to touch the basic concepts, that is features of the companies, corporate veil theory, types of companies. Again, a very, very important topic. This is also examiner's favorite topic. 3 marks ka ya 4 marks ka question aata hi aata hai related to your class of companies. He can either ask you for 3 marks, what is an OPC? He can either ask you a difference between company limited by shares and company limited by guarantee. He can either step in a question of case study of 4 marks on a private limited company. So classes of companies somehow included in your exam. Share capital and shares is again a very small topic, which is again very, very general, because shares is something which you know more than me, because you have been learning a lot about the share capital in your accounts chapter as well. And another one will be Memorandum and Articles of Association, which is entirely a new thing for you. And in the last lecture, we'll cover in detail about MOAs and AOAs. Abhi ke liye sirf itna yaad rakhna hai ki Memorandum tells us the objective of the business and Articles tells us about the rules and regulations of a company. Okay, ye nahi karna meeting, directors, prospector, ye CA inter mein karenge hum. We just have to cover this much part in the Companies Act 2013. So let us have the basic information. It says Companies Act 2013 was enacted to consolidate and amend the laws relating to companies. It says so many companies, don't you think that certain rules and regulations needs to be applied to a company? The way Contract Act 1872 is applicable to all the contracts that we made by having an offer and acceptance. Similarly, whenever you form a company, all the rules related to companies are defined under the Companies Act 2013. Now it is trying to tell you clearly over here that due to some changes in the national and international economic environment and for the expansion and growth of company, the central government decided to replace the Companies Act 1956 with a new legislation. So this is just a mere information which all the students who are doing chartered accountancy should be aware about this thing. If you ask me anything is going to come in the exams from this, I don't think so. Examiner will be asking you, please tell me how the Bear Act is defined. But again, since we are reading Companies Act 2013 for the first time, so this is the basic the bullet points. I have taken the information from the study material so that you don't have to read those big paragraphs. You can simply remember that 1956 Act was replaced with Companies Act 2013. Why it was replaced? For the national growth and expansion of a country. I just now told you that government has to take in preview what is the changes going on, how the companies are getting incorporated outside. Is there something which we require to prescribe a minimum limit for certain companies? So that is how we try to amend the Act for 2013. And now, how many sections are there? 470 sections. How many schedules are there? So after sections, we have certain schedules, certain chapters, certain rules are given in order to enhance what is written in the entire Act. So if you ask me, what is this slide talking about? This slide talks about your breakup of the Companies Act. It is given in 470 sections. Those who are asking, ma'am, we have to learn all the sections. Not at all. In CA, Inter CA final is still waiting for companies to come. So CA Foundation mein, we just study a very general information about companies. But yes, when you go into CA Inter and CA Final, you'll try to cover almost all the sections under the Companies Act step by step. So ICAI is very carefully drafting your study material. They know how much information has to be given to CA Foundation babies, what I call them, because right now we are small babies. We are just trying to grab the information, just trying to become aware about what the companies are about. CA Inter will be learning at length. A huge mark of paper, company law is your subject that you have to do. And then again, some part of the companies will be covered in your CA final as well. 7 schedules, 29 chapters, and substantial part is in the form of company rules. I was remember Partnership Act while we were discussing, I told you there are certain company rules which describe the number of partners limit. So that is what it talks about company rules. It again give you certain additional things apart from the sections are given in your company rules. Now, what is a company? So here comes your basic definition. Company is an artificial being. So Chief Justice Marshall has defined companies in their own words. They said it is an artificial being, invisible, intangible, existing only in the contemplation of law. अरे मैम ये तो बहुत बड़े-बड़े words बोल दिए आपने. What does it mean? So when I was a student of your age, I was really wondering कि ये क्या कह दिया इसने इतना बड़ा word. मतलब I haven't understood what are they trying to say. Artificial also, invisible also. Then what it is actually. So company is there. It is existing, but definitely you can't see it. So let's take an example. ABC, 3 shareholders, 3 of the friends who formed the partnership, they thought that let's form a company. Let's not go into partnership. Why don't we just set up a company? Now, for setting up a company, it's very important to know what is a company. So the benefit of setting up a company is that once you get it registered, once you get it incorporated, what is the meaning of incorporated? You have to get the company registered with the registrar of companies. You cannot have it like a partnership agreement kara and we decided to form a partnership. No. In order to set up a company, in order to have those words private limited or limited after your name, you have to get a certificate of incorporation from the registrar of companies. Now, what happens when a company is incorporated? It says an artificial person comes into existence. So company, when ABC went to the incorporated a company, they formed ABC Limited. Now this ABC Limited has come into existence. These 3 shareholders are different from this company. Are you understanding, children? When we were partners, so we form a partnership firm. So firm and partners are one and the same thing. You remember? LLP में भी हमने समझा कि different identity है. But if I compare it with the partnership firm, 3 partners form a partnership firm and they are collectively together known as partnership firm. Whatever one of the partners will do, entire firm is liable for that. This is what we learn. But companies has a different story. ABC formed a company, ABC Limited. Now the company is different. Shareholders are different. They have made into an existence. An artificial person means somebody who cannot be seen. Is it a natural person? So I am a natural person. You are a natural person. Company is non-living thing. You cannot see it. It is not visible. It can't be seen or touched. But yes, it exists. Yes, it is existing in the eyes of law. Contemplation of law means कानून की नजर में company exist करती है. So if I have formed ABC Limited, it has an individual identity. It is a company which we have set up as an artificial being. It is invisible, can't be seen, can't be touched. Intangible, something you cannot see and touch, but it exists in the eyes of law. So that is what a company is. That is when we talk about separate legal entity. It gets a separate existence apart from its shareholders. Let us do the definition in the words of Professor Hane, which tries to cover all the basic characteristics of a company as well. It says a company is an incorporated association. Very, very important line. Means you have to get the company registered. In partnership firm, was the registration compulsory, children? Tell me. When we were doing partnership firm, was the registration compulsory? Very nice, Dinesh, Abdul, those who have written, we have accepted the challenge. Great. Contemplation means in the eyes of law, Shiba Khan. Yes, children, you have to. Jasmandeep Singh is asking, ma'am, law exam is tough or it's easy? So if you have revised and studied well, nothing is tough. Okay, please, children, tell me, is it... thank you so much, Miss Manisha. I'm glad to read that. Is it important for the partnership firm to get itself registered? Yes or no? Mr. Chakshu Jain, that is what I'll try to teach you in separate legal entity concept. That's correct, what you wrote. All right. Definitely, exactly. All of you are correct. Those who have written, no ma'am, registration was not compulsory in the partnership firm. That's correct. But if you are setting up a company or an LLP, you have to get yourself registered. You have to take that thappa from the registrar of companies. A stamp has to be taken. Very good. Mr. Abdul, why are you going into conversion of company into partnership? Wait for CA Enter to come. Not part of your syllabus right now. Very good, Sarthak, Hari, Priyanka, Pooja, Mansi, Dinesh, Kushi, Sarthak, Arjun, Shiv, Pooja, all of you are correct. It is not compulsory. Why it is not compulsory? There were certain benefits. You remember there were certain benefits under section 69 which were given to the firm if it gets registered, but otherwise it was not compulsory. And in the same question I asked you, is it compulsory for the company to get registered? Definitely, it is incorporated under the Companies Act only when it gets registered. So what happens when it gets registered? Number one, it becomes an artificial person created by law. So contemplation of law means created by law. Law has made it come into existence. Nobody has given a birth to a company. Law has given birth to a company. It is an artificial person which is created by law. Number two, it has a separate existence. So shareholders, I told you ABC shareholders are different and company is different. Although the shareholders are the owners of the company, but law has given a different, distinct identity to a company. It says company has its own liabilities and shareholders are liable only to the extent of their limited liability in the company. So if I have invested shares in ABC Limited, or maybe if I've taken up a share in Reliance, so tomorrow if Reliance failed to pay the money, will the people come to me and ask me, Harleen ma'am, you have also invested, why don't you pay on behalf of Reliance? Why will I pay? ऐसे तो Reliance में कितने लोगों ने invest करा है, तो company is responsible for the transactions. They will go get hold of Reliance. So if ABC Limited, tomorrow ABC Limited failed to pay the debts. So do you think ABC are liable? Definitely ABC are liable to the extent of their liability in the company, but the case can be filed in the name of company. It is the company with the name of which they are doing a business. So children, there exists a shield. There exists a veil between the shareholders and the company. So law says company is different from its shareholders. The shareholders invest money in a company, but company has its own corporate existence. Company can sue and be sued in its own name. What does it mean? That means company can take an action. I can file an action against any supplier. Say, for example, my suppliers failed to pay money. Now, company is suffering losses. So we can file a case in the name of ABC Limited. I will not say shareholder B wants to file a case. I will file the case in the name of my company's name. Similarly, if the company needs to pay payment and company is suffering losses, then the parties can file a case against the company as well. So company can file a case and actions can be filed against the name of a company as well. Why? Because it has a corporate existence. All right. So shareholders are different. If you'll ask me, ma'am, then who will pay? See, company has a separate legal existence, but it is being run through shareholders only, or maybe through directors. काम अपने आप नहीं कर सकती कंपनी, बट हमने यहाँ पे क्या समझना है कि कंपनी इज डिफरेंट, शेयर होल्डर्स आर डिफरेंट. So this is the veil, this is the shield, this is the curtain which exists between the company and shareholders, and they both are separate from each other. They have their own separate liabilities and they have their own separate property as well. Okay, if you have taken the property in the name of company, then company is the owner, not you. However, in partnership, we all were together the owners. We were bound to take care because we all were the owners and we were having a relationship of trust and faith in each other. But here, the company's property remains the property of the company. Assets that you have taken in the name of company belongs to the company, and your separate assets remain separate. Means tomorrow now, if the company failed to pay the losses, this ABC Limited that you have formed, if it is not able to pay the losses, then you will not say that Mr. A, B and C, please bring your personal assets also. Company only has to pay. You will not be invited unless and until it is an unlimited company. So it says generally the companies are limited by shares or by guarantee. What is company limited by shares and guarantee? I haven't taught you right. But right now I've just told you that the liabilities of company are different. Shareholders are different from the company that they have formed. So company has a separate legal existence. We will discuss a major case now, Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited, on the basis of separate legal entity, which will make the concept more easier. With a perpetual succession, the third point is perpetual succession means continuous existence. Company never dies. Company never dies. Then what happens to the name? What happens to the company? Say, for example, if there were only 3 shareholders, this A, B, and C, and they were driving on their way back from Delhi to Chandigarh, and maybe they met with an accident and all the shareholders died. So you said, ma'am, ABC, there were only 3 shareholders. They have made the company ABC Limited. Now all the 3 shareholders have died. Will the company come to an end? Apparently, it seems there were only 3 shareholders. They have died. The company should come to an end. But my dear children, company has a perpetual succession. It continues to exist. Company never dies unless and until you get its name removed from the registrar of companies. Unless and until we do the winding up of company, company's name is not removed from the registrar of companies. It continues to exist. Even if all the shareholders of a company die, then also the company continues to exist. This is the meaning of perpetual succession, continuity of existence. Company never dies. And a company has a common seal. What is the next point? Company has a common seal. So common seal means it has a common stamp that you use for once the company is incorporated. It has the common signatures that you have to put. So there is a certain small amendment which is given in a study material about common seal. We will see that from the study material as well. So let us do this last definition. As per section 2, subsection 20, now it says these were the definitions given by different writers, authors. So Professor Hannay has given the definition, which is generally the breakup of your characteristics and features of company. And Chief Justice Marshall has just told you that company is something which you cannot see, which you cannot feel. You can only have its existence in the books of law. कागजों में company exist करती है, दिखती नहीं है, but yes, company है. And Companies Act 2013 says companies incorporated under this act or under any previous company law will be considered as a company. Now, this is something very, very interesting. Now, you will ask me, ma'am, why are you telling this thing again? We know that company 2013 says that company, this is the company. We have understood the definition. Now, why this definition is separately telling us a company incorporated under this act? All right. So today, if we are forming ABC Limited in 2020-22, so obviously it is a company as per Companies Act 2013. But what if I formed a company in 2000? Won't it be a company under a Companies Act? It says even under any previous law, the laws, acts which were prevailing during that time, if you have formed a company, that will also be considered as a company under the Companies Act 2013. All right. So any company which is incorporated under this Act, 2013 Act, or maybe under previous Act, that is Companies Act 1956, both the companies will be considered as a company as per the current definition of the amendment. Now, applicability of the Companies Act, it extends to whole of India. First of all, the companies which are incorporated under this Act or under any other previous company law. So whatever laws you were having before, all the companies which are incorporated under current Act or previous Act will be applicable. Companies Act 2013 will be applicable to all of them. And it is applicable to whole of India. Those who ask me, extends to whole of India. Yes, it extends. So Companies Act extends to whole of India. So all those who are sending me the queries, please children, let me just complete with the characteristics first, and then I will read your queries. I'll give you a small 5 minutes break. Then I'll read your queries and then I'll answer them. But otherwise we'll be left in between. Okay, now insurance companies. It says, do you think Companies Act 2013 is also applicable to insurance companies? Law says yes. Act is applicable even to insurance companies, but exceptions is something which is lovingly part of your law. So law always try to give you exceptions. वो कहते पूरी clearly बात बता दी आपको, but एक exception छोड़ देते. All right. Khushi Bakshi, don't mind. You'll be able to clear this time. Nothing to worry about that. All right. So insurance companies, except where the provisions of the said act are inconsistent with the provisions of the Insurance Act. Now it says Companies Act 2013 is also applicable to the insurance companies, but children, insurance companies are already governed by their own Insurance Act as well. So now these are different kind of companies which are incorporated under their own act. Like for example, banking company, they have to follow the rules and regulations of Banking Regulation Act. Electricity companies have to follow the rules and regulations of Electricity Act. And insurance companies have to follow the rules of IRDA Act or Insurance Act 1930. But wherever the provisions are inconsistent, means if everything is common, it's same, Companies Act will be applicable. But wherever there is any disagreement, say for example, Insurance Act says that you need 3 shareholders, Companies Act say you need 2 shareholders, then Insurance Act applications, 3 shareholders will become applicable. It says where the provisions are inconsistent, means where there is any disagreement, then we will go with the respective act under which this company is formed. So insurance companies को भी Companies Act applicable है, but जहां पे agreement नहीं हो रहा है, जहां पे inconsistency है, जहां पे disagreement हो जाता है दोनों provisions में, then we have to, Insurance Act will overrule. Similarly, banking companies. It says Companies Act is applicable to all the banking companies. You set up any banking companies, the provisions of Companies Act are applicable to it. But wherever there is any disagreement between Banking Regulation Act and Companies Act, then Banking Regulation Act will become applicable. Electricity companies, companies which are generating and supplying the electricity. Again, Companies Act is applicable to all the electricity company except where the provisions are inconsistent, means wherever there is any disagreement between Companies Act and Electricity Act, in that very case, the provisions of Electricity Act will become applicable. And all the other companies governed by any special act. You know, children, statutory bodies are ICAI is a statutory body. ICSC is a statutory bodies. All these are body corporates which are incorporated. So law says to all these are the statutory corporations formed under different kind of respective acts. So it says any other company which are governed by special act, all the Companies Act 2013 is applicable to all those companies as well. So what did it leave? It did not leave any company. So even foreign companies, the companies which are incorporated outside India, it is applicable to them as well, provided they have the place of existence in India. So Companies Act 2013, basically he is trying to tell you it has a huge applicability. It is not just applicable to the companies which are incorporated under this act, also to the previous companies, to insurance companies also, to banking companies also. So we have banking companies, insurance companies, electricity companies, all the companies this act is applicable. And to other companies which are formed in a special act, there also this act is applicable. Now, what are the salient features? What happens when the company is incorporated? You can see the huge buildings of Tata in front of you. So it says it gets a corporate body, a corporate structure. Once you get yourself registered, it becomes a body corporate. Now, what is body corporate? Again, the same definition. It means the company's body corporate means the company is incorporated under this act or under the previous company law. So it says we are now, another name given to the company is the body corporate. So all the organizations, whether you are a Reliance, you're a body corporate, whether you set up Tata, you're a body corporate, private limited, public limited companies, you set up a government company, that is also a body corporate. So all these statutory kind of organizations which are formed under the Companies Act, they are given the symbol of a body corporate. That means you become an artificial existence is given to you by the law. And you have a perpetual succession. What is the meaning of perpetual succession? That means company never dies unless and until the name of the company is striked off from the registrar of companies. So if I tell you there is a company PQR Limited, which was being run by, listen carefully now, this is a question for all of you. There was a company PQR Limited and the shareholders in this company were Mr. P, Mr. A and Mr. D. And also this company had two directors, C and E. So C and E were the two directors and they were the shareholders, Mr. P, A and D. Now on a trip to Goa, all of them were very happy because lockdown has opened and they thought let's have a nice trip to Goa. But unfortunately, all these shareholders and the directors also died. Listen carefully. This is a company PQR Limited. The shareholders were Mr. P, A and D and there were two directors, Mr. C and E. On their trip to Goa, unfortunately, all of them met with an accident and died. Company will come to an end. Yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am. The shareholders have also died. The directors of the company has also died. What will PQR Limited now be? Will the company come to an end? Yes, Mamta, it is applicable. Yes, foreign company is also a company, Sarthak. We will discuss when we talk about foreign company. So children, you have to answer me. PQR Limited will come to an end. Yes or no? Ms. Dipanshi, whatever definitions we are discussing in the class, you can do those. Common seal, we'll take up once again. Utkarsh, please wait. We'll discuss about common seal. I have not yet taught you entirely about common seal. So Mr. Chakshu Jain, if the company is not having sufficient fund to pay to the creditors, once I teach you about Salomon versus, your points will get clear. What happens, how the payments are made, we will tell you in that case. No, ma'am, because company is registered by law. Mr. Rudraksh Deshmukh, I like your answer. Jyoti, Ganga, Arjun, Shiv Tripathi, Vidhi. Sivastri, great. Unless the name, Sivastri has written very nicely, unless the name of the company is removed, it continues to exist. Very good, children. So see, all those companies still alive. Mr. Chetan, Akash, Kaushik, Hira, Arpita, Mohammed, Dhairya, Yushi, all of you are correct. Tanya, Sanket, Arnab. So you accepted the challenge and you're fulfilling your challenge. That means answer is company has a perpetual existence. So the point to confuse you over here was even the shareholders or the directors, whosoever, even if everyone has died, then also the company continues to exist unless and until its name is removed from the registrar of companies. This is what I just now taught you about separate legal existence. So ये एक घर की फोटो हमने आपको दिखा दी कि एक कंपनी अलग से क्रिएट हो जाती है and these are the separate shareholders. They are different from what the company is created. Mokora versus North Assurance Company Limited is a very nice case law reference which we can give when we talk about the separate legal existence. What happened in this case law? We'll read word to word from the study material just in another 2 minutes. Let me just complete these points. Artificial legal person, I told you right now that the company can own and property. We can have a name, property in the name of company. Definitely you can have. Company can take an action. Yes, company can take an action. Can you take an action against the company? Definitely can be sued also. Can you enter into contracts with the name of company? Definitely. So if I want to enter into a contract, I can see ABC Limited enters into a contract with Mr. D. So company can have a property, can sue, be sued, can enter into a contract, but it is acting through a human agency. Now comes your answer. All those who were asking me, ma'am, artificial legal person hai, to kaam kaise karegi? Kaam it is doing through humans only. It is acting through human agency means we are the shareholders, we are the directors who are actually running the company. So that is why when I will be talking about corporate legal existence, there are 5-6 cases where law tells you that it is not always that you are different from your company. There are cases where law has told you that company and shareholders will be treated as one, because you cannot try to cheat people. You cannot take a disadvantage of this thing that my company is different and we shareholders are different. Now let us do some fraudulent activities and law will just come and get hold of the company. That is not done. Law will also try to find out, court will try to find out who are the people behind this company. Company cannot go on its own. क्या कंपनी मार्केट में चलकर खुद सप्लायर्स के साथ मीटिंग तो नहीं कर आ सकती ना? Then how does it act? It is always acting through its human agencies. They are the shareholders and directors who are acting, who are making the company run. So in case of any fraudulent actions, the corporate veil can also be lifted. How it is lifted, when it is lifted, we'll understand when we talk about corporate veil theory. And the last point is your common seal and limited liability. Limited liability means liability of the company is limited to the extent of maybe limited by shares or limited by guarantee, or it is unlimited liability. Now what happened in the case of common seal? Let us just go to the study material once. I have some examination question papers also for all of you. We'll be doing that as well. All right. So this is what we are discussing about your companies. Let me take you to this. So these are the definitions. Those who are asking, ma'am, we have to learn all the definitions. Even one definition is absolutely fine, children. But what we just discussed is a breakup of 3 of the definitions. It is important to have a mere knowledge about what is written in your study. So for learning, one definition is absolutely fine. So separate legal existence, this is what we have discussed. We will be coming to Macora versus Northern Assurance after the break. Let me show you the point of common seal. So it says company being an artificial person is not bestowed with the body of natural being. अब क्या कह रहे हैं? बड़ी मजेदार बातें बता रहे हैं. कह रहे हैं उसकी natural body थोड़ी ना है. कंपनी साइन कैसे करेगी? It has to run through human agencies. I just told you there are people who are running the company. So it says common seal is the official signature of a company which is affixed by the officers and employees of the company on its every document. So there is a signature which you have to put on each and every document. How it is done? It is done by the officers and employees. So it says a common seal is used as a symbol of its incorporation. The thappa that we get that yes, we are a registered company. So wherever you have to sign, you will put the stamp of ABC Limited and the officers will just pick it up and put a stamp that yes, it is done. On all the documents, the stamp that you put, the seal that you put, that is known as the common seal. These are basically the official signatures of the company. Sign करने के बजाय हम seal लगा देते हैं. Now, this is important. 2015 made an amendment in the common seal by omitting the words and a common seal from section 9. Now, it says where the exact definition is given, it has removed the words and 9. So, man, that means features of the company are word and a common seal has now been removed. Omitted means the words and common seal has been removed. And they have given an alternative mode of authorization for the companies opt not to have a common seal. So that means now if ABC Limited want that I don't want to have a common seal, then also it is fine. The reason is the common seal is a relic of medieval times. It says Purane Zamane ki baat. Medieval times means it is the olden times that we were using. Even in the UK, common seal has been made optional since 2006. So now it says it is just a mere option. If you want to use a common seal, it's absolutely fine. Otherwise, you can avoid having a common seal also. Now, what you have to do is, it says this amendment provides the documents which needs to be authorized by the common seal are required to be done only if the company opts to have a common seal. So point number 1, it says, if you want to have a common seal, then you can use it. Point number 2 says, if you don't want to have a common seal, then please make sure that your signatures or authorization are given by 2 directors, or, there is a word, or, by a director and a company secretary if the company has appointed a company secretary. So it says ABC Limited, if option 1 is, if I opt not to have a common seal. If I opt not to have a common seal, then the authorization needs to be made by whom? Who all will sign it? Tell me the answer. If I have opted not to have a common seal, it says then the documents need to be signed by somebody. It says it's mandatory to have 2 directors signing it. 2 directors must sign it, or means there is a option given to you that in case you have a company secretary, then 1 director and 1 company secretary can sign it. So either 2 directors should give their signatures, or if your company is having a company secretary, then director and a company secretary can sign the documents of the company. Clear? Let's take a small break, and after the break, we have huge case laws coming up for you. So charge up yourself for those. Meanwhile, I'll just go through your queries. All right, let's take a small break. All right, welcome back, students. So many of you are still having the queries related to common seal. We'll just try to close that query. Shiba Khan, definitely your answers are visible. Don't worry about that. Pushpa, Ritu, Vanshika, Mayur, Payus, Kashish, all of you were correct in that answer. Reera Hussain, Priyanka Jha, Simran Kaur, you were correct. I'm just trying to figure out if still anybody have a query. Yes, Mr. Gopal Krishnan, if you're asking about the change in your company, definitely the common seal needs to be changed in case after the amendment, if you were having. So again, children, you have to understand the amendment simply tells you whether you want to have a common seal or you don't want to have a common seal. So simply an option has been given to you. So 2015 is making it very clear that it is not compulsory to have a common seal. So whatever I'm speaking right now, you can just write it down in your short notes over here near your study material. So you can write down Companies Amendment Act 2015 tells you that having a common seal has now become an optional. This amendment is basically telling you that all the documents which needs to be authenticated, which needs to be signed or which needs to be authorized by a common seal will be required to be do so only if the company opts to have a common seal. Now let's take two examples. Number one example, ABC Limited decides to have a common seal. So now what will I do? On all my documents, I have to authenticate it with the common seal. Clear? This much is clear. So if I have decided that I want to have a common seal and I have got that common seal for my official signatures, then in all the documents, I will be using that particular official signatures to be affixed by the officers or directors of the company. What happened in point number 2? ABC Limited opts not to have a common seal. Now is your major story. So who all will sign the documents now? You have to tell me. Who all will sign the documents now? Definitely, that's correct. 2 directors or 1 director and 1 company secretary if the company has a company secretary. So if my ABC Limited is having 1 company secretary, I have appointed a company secretary, then that company secretary and 1 director is signing. If I don't have a company secretary, then simply 2 directors will be signing the authorization of the documents have to be done by them. Clear? I hope now it's absolutely clear. Common seal query and amendment is definitely clear to all of you. Another one that somebody is asking about Makara versus North Assurance. We are just going to do that as well. Let me read if we have any other common query. Vanshika Gupta, we are yet to do that. Company never dies. Inconsistent means if the provisions of the Companies Act are not consistent, they are not in agreement with that respective act. Thank you, Mr. Dhruv McCall. I'm so glad that you have cleared your exam. Very good. Miss Archit, it is not compulsory to learn it by word to word. Definitely, you can write down in your own words as well. And all those who have sent the answers for director and company secretary for common seal, that's correct. Miss Jyoti Jha, I can't find your question. Please send it again. Mr. Sanket wants me to explain him in Hindi. Company होता क्या है? Company जब आप फॉर्म करते हैं, artificial legal person means एक ऐसी आप ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बिल्ड कर देते हैं जो दिखाई नहीं दे रही है, बट हाँ उसकी एग्जिस्टेंस है, वो एक सेपरेट एग्जिस्टेंस में आती है, शेयर होल्डर्स डिफरेंट है और जो उन्होंने कंपनी बनाई है उसको एक अलग कॉर्पोरेट स्ट्रक्चर दे दिया गया है. ऑलराइट? Yes, Miss Khushi, you can apply for that as well. All right, Gopal Krishnan. Okay, that's correct. Miss Vanshika, that is talking about the Insurance Regulation Act. The simple thing that you have to remember is that if the provisions of Companies Act are applicable to insurance companies also, only places where the agreement is not there, Companies Act is saying something else, and Insurance Act, your Insurance Regulatory Development, everything is saying something else, then you have to follow that respective act. You don't need to learn about the Insurance Companies Act. Nobody's asking you to do that. Okay, let's move ahead. If anyone's query is missed, I think one child was writing, you can write again. Prasanjit, you have any problem? Please write it again. And Jyoti Jha, even your query is missed somewhere in between, you can write it again, okay? All right, let's move ahead, children. A member does not have any insurable interest. So where I have taught you about the separate legal existence, you all have understood that a different form of organization, the only main characteristic of a company is it has a separate legal entity. It is distinct and separate from its members. So I told you company has their own bank accounts, they raise their loans, they have their own property, they enter into a contracts and members are different. Now, what is talking about insurable interest? It says member does not even have an insurable interest in the property of the company. Now, if I say the table and chair that I've taken from my company and I go and get their insurance done from the insurance company. So children, just tell me a wise answer. When I'm getting my furniture and property insured, will I get it insured in my name or I will get it insured in the company's name? Don't you think if the property, the table, chair, furniture, which belongs to the company, needs to be insured in the name of a company? Correct? Pay attention here. Leave the queries. I'm not looking into that. First, you have to understand because this is the major thing that you ask me in the queries later on. So pay attention right now. So number one, it says that if you have to get any insurance done, don't you think that the property of the company, let me use this. Don't you think that the property of the company should be insured in the name of company? Correct? That is absolutely correct. And if I get the insurance in my name, then what will happen? Insurance company will come to me. They will say that, why are you getting, you are a shareholder. Company's property is different. Your property is different. So this is what happened in Makora versus Northern Assurance Company Limited case. So there was a person, Mr. Makora. What happened with him was that he was the holder of nearly all the shares of a timber company. So there was Mr. Makora, when he was a sole proprietor, he was doing business of a timber. Timber means wood, sale and purchase of wood. Kara tha wo. Now he set up a new company, that is timber company, and he took up all the shares in the company except one. Except one means 99% shareholding is now with Mr. Makora. So Makora is a shareholder in a company. The name of the company is Timber Company. He was also a major creditor of the company. He has also taken some credit from the company and he was a creditor of the company. Now Makora, this Mr. M, insured the company's timber in his own. So children, when he sold the entire timber to a company, Mr. Makora was a sole proprietor. That time it's okay. Timber was in his name. Insurance was also in his name. Sole proprietor, business and all the assets, one and the same thing. The moment Makora made a company, company's assets are different. Makora is having a different identity. The shareholders are not the owners of the company's property. A company is enjoying, owning and disposing the property in its own name, children. Company's assets are contributed by the shareholder, but the company becomes the owner of the capital and assets. Company has everything is in the name of the company now. Shareholders are not the private joint owners. You cannot say that if you have taken up the shares in Reliance, now you become the joint owner of Reliance. Does it happen? We are just simply the shareholders. We are not the private owners of the company's property. कंपनी की प्रॉपर्टी कंपनी की जिम्मेवारी है, कंपनी के नाम से खरीदी और बेची जा सकती है. So now the timber that he has sold to a timber company, but the insurance was still in his name. He forgot to get his name changed. That now the insurance, what he should have done, he should have took a fresh insurance in the name of company. So what happened when the timber got lost in fire? Makora went to the insurance company and they said, please pay us the insurance compensation. But the insurance company said, we are not liable to pay you anything because there is no insurance in the name of the company. You have no interest in the property owned by the company. Who are you? We don't know you. Even if it was your property, now once you have created a company, you should have taken the insurance in the name of the company. So what is the simple point that you have to remember in Makora versus Northern Assurances? That the insurance of the property of the company should be in the name of the company, even because the insurance was taken in the name of Mr. Makora. यहाँ लिखा है ना, Makora insured the company's timber in his own name. Clearly बता रहा है आपको. He has insured the timber in his own name. So actually it should have been in the name of the timber company. Then he would have claimed the insurance money. But the insurance company said that we are not liable to pay you because you are having the insurance in your name. And these are the assets of the company. So you cannot have any right of the property owned by the company. You have no legal and equitable interest in that. So we're not liable to you. Shareholder does not have any right in the property which is owned by the company. So you have to remember the property, once it becomes the company's property, insurance has to be taken in the name of the company. If it's in the name of the shareholder, insurance company is not liable to pay to you. Clear हो गया Makora versus Northern Insurance? नहीं था इतना difficult ना? I know. Now let's understand the corporate veil theory, a very, very important concept and the most leading case law which you have to learn with me today. Makora versus Northern Insurance, you're asking me, you don't need to learn that. But yes, it's important to understand that because when you learn it, when you learn your chapter, you know the meaning of what is the meaning of this particular case law. Otherwise, you keep wondering, ye insurable interest kya tha? Definitely, all those who have written on company's name, Jyoti Jha, Santosh, Ajit, Priyanka, Jaspreet, Shivam, all those who are answering along with me, that's great. If property is mine and I will insure my property, yes, definitely, Ms. Bhumika. Once it becomes the property of the company, insurance has to be taken in the name of the company. Absolutely correct. Okay, let's move ahead. Timber means, Miss Talat, timber means wood. So it is a kind of a wood in which he was dealing in a business. Yes, Mr. Sanket. Absolutely correct. Makora is different from the company that he has formed. Priyanka, that is a different story that you're asking. We will discuss about that. Okay. Let's move ahead. So now corporate veil theory, children, I have just explained you where I was talking about separate legal entity. That company is different from the shareholders who are forming the company. Now we are going to understand how this corporate veil was invented, what happened in this respective case law of Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited. Now, this is the leading case law, children. It is the main foundation of the concept of corporate personality. So, Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited, you have to remember the name of this case law. Nobody is going to cut your marks if you don't write. But obviously, if you write it, it gives a good impression. So now you have to decide whether you have to leave a different kind of unique and good impression on the examiner or you have to be an ordinary student. So if you have to be a little extraordinary like my kind of student, then you have to remember the name of Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited. And anyways, I have told you, you're having those notebooks in which you're writing with colored pens. So write the name of the case law with different color pens. You'll definitely remember it. So what happened in this case law? All the eyes and ears here. There was a person, Mr. Salomon, who formed the company with 7 subscribers consisting of himself, his wife and 1 daughter. अब क्या करा? घर की कंपनी बना ली. उसने कहा, he was a sole proprietor in a shoe business and he thought, let's make a company. Because company में ज़्यादा assets आ जाएंगे, investment हो जाएगी and maybe we'll be getting higher the investment, higher the returns. So that is how your different forms of organizations run. From company, from sole proprietor, you jump into partnership and you want to have a larger expansion, you jump into straight away a company kind of structure. So 7 subscribers was himself, he himself and his wife, 4 sons and 1 daughter. So they said that they were the business assets of 38 pounds and he took over the personal business assets and 20,000 shares of 1 pound each. Debentures also he took over 10,000 of the company with charge on the company's asset. Okay, this is what you were asking me. Somebody was asking me, ma'am, what is the meaning of charge on company's asset? We simply have to remember over here, Mr. Salomon was a secured creditor. He is taking the debentures against the security of the company's assets. So he is known as the secured creditor of the company for worth rupees 10,000 pounds, not rupees, 10,000 pounds. So now this entire information that is given over here is the purchase consideration. That is how he took over the company. The payment that you have made for making that company was He has given the business assets of this much amount. He took the shares, 20,000 shares, and 10,000 pounds is the credit amount, that is debentures, secured debentures he has taken in the company. That is, he became a secured creditor of the company, and balance was paid in cash. Here, others family members, that is wife, daughter, and son, they have taken a £1 share each. Now, यहाँ तक जो information थी ना, that was just a basic information to make you understand how this company was formed. You need need to learn this. But now what we are going to understand is very important, and yes, you need to learn and remember this. So, कितने shares दिए, कितने की purchase consideration थी, you don't have to do your put your heads into much into that. Simply, you have to remember that Salomon made a company. Number one, he made a company, Salomon and Company Limited, with his own family members, and he took 20,000 shares and secured creditor. He also took secured debentures. It says that debentures worth 10,000 of the company with a charge on company's assets means he has taken a security against that. So it is secured debentures that he has taken 10,000 pounds. Now subsequently means later on. Subsequently का मतलब होता है बाद में. Company went into liquidation. Liquidation means the company is now coming to an end. Company was not doing very well business. He made so much of arrangement, but company was running into losses due to general trade depression means the company was not doing well, and they decided to close the company. Now, what is the general rule when you are closing any company, children? When company is getting closed, when company is winding up, how we have to pay to the outsiders? What is the criteria for making the payment to the outsiders is, law says first you have to pay the secured creditors, then you have to pay to the unsecured creditors, and balance if any means agar bacha, given to the shareholders. Balance if any is given to the shareholders. Now, what does it mean, ma'am? Why are you telling us all these things? Because these things are very important to understand when we are talking about the Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited. It says you have formed a company and now the company is winding up. So generally, the law says whenever the company goes into winding up, you have to make the payment to the outsiders. Now, how the payment is made? You first pay the secured creditors of the company. Then you pay to the unsecured creditors, and if balance any is left is given to the shareholders and they divide among themselves. Now, how kind of shareholders? If there are preference shareholders, then they get first paid, and after that equity shareholders. Don't ask me who are preference shareholders and equity shareholders. We will do that in the second session, okay? So as of now, simply understand there are different type of shareholders. After the creditors, the payment is made to the preference shareholders. They have a preference for the making of the payment, and then it is the equity shareholders. This is the general criteria how the payment has to be made. Now, in our very case, it said that the company went into liquidation and the assets of the company were not sufficient. How much assets of the company? They have not given you the information for the assets. Let's assume when the company was winding up, there were the assets left up till amount of rupees 6,000. Let's assume. Now, these 6,000 rupees, they were unsecured creditors to the tune of, they were the unsecured creditors to the tune of, I hope you have written this information, children, because it just got erased. Okay, so you have written that information. The payment is to be made to the secured creditors, then the unsecured creditors, and balance is given to the shareholders. Now, there were unsecured creditors to the tune of 7,000 pounds. Salomon could not be treated as a secured creditor of the company in respect of the debentures held by him because he was the managing director of one-man company. And he was not different from Salomon, and merely it was a sham or a fraud. Mere sham means a company which is just created not to do any business. Now, what happened? When the company went into liquidation, Salomon said, I am the secured creditor of this company. So I should be given my 10,000 pounds first, and if there is any balance, should be given to the unsecured creditors. And this is what happened, because I just told you that the payment is made to the secured creditors. So there were assets around worth rupees 6,000 pounds which were left, and entire 6,000 pounds were given to Mr. Salomon because he was a secured creditors. Now the unsecured creditors got very angry. They went to the court. They said, look, this Mr. Salomon, he is the managing director of this company. It is a one-man company. Why he is giving money to himself? The unsecured creditor said, Salomon and the company are one and the same person. Why are you paying money to him? We should get the money first. So at that time, it was held by Lord MacNaughton that this is what they held in that leading case now, that the company is a person different from the subscribers to the memorandum. Who are the subscribers? Shareholders. Likh lo yahan pe. He's talking about the shareholders. So this person said that the company is different person from the shareholders, although it is incorporated, although the business is same, but the shareholders are different. Even if you're holding all the shares in a company is different and the shareholders are different. And this is what was held in the leading case now, Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited, that Mr. Salomon is different from its companies. He's not getting the money because he's shareholder, children. Please understand. Why did he get the money? Because he was the creditor of his company. I told you he has taken secured debentures worth 10,000 pounds. Therefore, payment was made to Salomon and nothing was given to the unsecured creditors on the principle of separate legal existence, on the principle of corporate bail theory. It was specifically held in this case law that the company has its own existence. Shareholder cannot be held liable for the acts of the company, even if they hold entire share capital. So in partnership, we were having a mutual agency relationship. A was liable for what B and C were doing. B and C were liable for what A and A was doing. But in company, you're not liable. If you have taken up the shares in Reliance and if as a shareholder you do any mistake, is the company liable for you? No. So even the shareholder, even if you have taken the entire share capital, company's liabilities are different. So it says shareholders cannot be held liable for the acts of the company. Whole of the law of corporation is based on this very important line. It says the entire corporate law is based on this concept of separate corporate entity. So अगर आपको ये नहीं समझ आया तो लॉ में मुश्किल आ सकती है. आपने हमेशा कंपनी लॉ में, सो कंपनीज में सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्सेप्ट है सेपरेट लीगल एंटिटी का, which was laid down in the case of Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited, which tells you that the corporate personality has been given to a company. It is different from its shareholders. But I told you there are few cases in which the corporate veil can be lifted. The 5 to 6 case laws which are coming up, I'll be teaching you why it is important to lift the corporate veil. Now, when you say lifting the corporate veil means, what are the cases? Please write it down. What is the meaning of lifting the corporate veil? It means what are the cases in which company, and shareholders will be treated as one. Mr. Prabhu Murugan, we don't get objective papers in law. You will be getting descriptive case studies or the subjective questions. You have subjective paper, no objective paper. Somebody is saying the voice is lagging in between. Please make it clear. Thank you, Muhammad Ali, that you have found the case law interesting now. Good. Pooja, I hope it's clear to you now. Debentures, shares, Yatiraj, more we will discuss when we'll be talking in detail about the share capital. Definitely, Priyanta, that's correct. The sequence that you have written. Yes, Shiba Khan, that's absolutely correct answer. I know you all are studying your accounts also well, so you know about this. Makora case is also crystal clear to all the students. That's wonderful. Good, Vanshika. I'm glad. Okay, so corporate veil can be lifted. We were writing something. So these are the cases in which the shareholders and company will be treated as one. this is what I'm going to tell you, the meaning of corporate veil. I hope you have written, all of you. I just start reading what you're writing. Okay. Thank you for confirming that the voice is clear. See, Miss Manisha, if you can learn the name of the case law, it's well and fine. Otherwise, you should know the application of the case laws. Like if I give you a question and I ask you, do you think the payment should be made to Mr. Salomon? Yes or no? So you should be available to answer me that yes, if he is a secured creditor of the company, not because he's the managing director, children, please remember. It's not that because he was the owner of the company, that's why payment was made. Because he was the secured creditor of the company, that's why the payment was made to him. Why? Because company and shareholders are different. They're not same. Miss Pragati is finding law interesting, so that's wonderful. Okay, let's move ahead. So these are the fixed cases, children, where the corporate veil can be lifted. Let us understand what are those cases. Number one, lifting of corporate veil means disregarding the principle of corporate personality, and we will say that otherwise company is distinct and separate from its members. Now we are disregarding these things, means we are accepting that company and shareholders are one in these respective cases. So number one case is to determine the character of the company. We have to find out whether the company with which we are trading is an enemy or a friend. So far, how many case laws we have done? 2. Macora versus Northern Insurance Company Limited. Second, Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited. Now, the most interesting and the leading case law in this point is Daimler Company Limited versus Continental Tire and Rubber Company. Now, what happened in this respective case law? Let me just go to my presentation so that I can make it more simpler and easier for all of you. So lifting of corporate veil, you have all understood the separate legal entity concept I have written in the simpler reasons. In the other words, they enjoy corporate insulation. Somebody was asking, insulation means they are isolated, different. So shareholders are different, company is different. This is what they mean about the enjoying the corporate insulation. Means shareholders are protected from the acts of the company. It says that whatever the company is doing, company will be held liable. Tomorrow, if the company fails to pay the share, to pay through the outsiders, people will come and ask the company, not the shareholders. They will not tell the shareholders, bring your personal assets and sell it off and pay to us. No, they will be holding only the company. Company's liability has to be paid off from the company's assets. This is known as the meaning of enjoying corporate insulation. Now it says everybody will try to take a disadvantage of the situation. For example, I form a company and I try to cheat people, and when law will come to me, court will come to me and they will say, Harleena, what are you doing? You are doing a fraudulent activities by your company. And I tell to Mr. I go to the court and I tell my lawyer that, listen, I am not doing anything. I have studied corporate veil theory. You should go and get hold of my company. There is a company, ABC Limited. That company is doing all the frauds. I am different. My company is different. Let's apply the corporate veil theory and there is a shield between us and you should go and hold my ABC Limited liable. Do you think, is it correct? Who is running ABC Limited? I told you there is a human agency. So I am the human agency who is running that ABC Limited. So law tells you that these are the 5 respective cases that if you try to do any fraud, if you form the subsidiaries just to make them your agents, you avoid any legal obligation, you try to evade the taxes, you try to trade with the enemy, then all these cases, the shareholders and company will be considered as one. Concept of separate legal entity will be lifted, means it will be avoided, and we will say that the shareholders will be held liable. So these are the 5 cases where the shareholders are held liable for doing any kind of fraud. So government says आप cheat नहीं कर सकते हो, corporate veil theory है, आपको liabilities से free करती है. Shareholders are different, company is different, company की property अलग है, shareholders के अलग. But if you try to do any kind of cheating or any trading with alien enemy, do you know who is alien enemy? So if, for example, tomorrow India and China has a war, can we do trading with each other? Indian Contract Act, you must have learned that any contract you make with an alien enemy, the country in which you're not having cordial relationships, it is considered to be void. So trading with enemy simply means that you have to find out what is the character of the company. So companies with whom we are trading or doing business, are we having a cordial relationship or not? So this is the case law of Daimler Company Limited versus Continental that we're going to discuss right now. So what happened? This was the situation, alien enemy case law reference I have given you. So what happened? This is the time when the First World War was going on. So when the First World War was going on, then England and Germany were also into war kind of situation. So what happens actually when we are having a war kind of situation with another country? Then why do you think that we should not trade? Because if I will trade with your country, then you will pay me the money and I will use that money against your country. So if England is having a war with Germany, so if I try to do business with Germany and I will be getting some money and I will try to use the same money in my war as well. So that's why it is said that alien enemies cannot trade. पता होना चाहिए ना क्यों हम बात कर रहे हैं, why we are restricting you, why we are stopping you to trade. So this is the reason why the alien enemies should not be trading. Now let us understand what happened in this case law. There was a company, Daimler Company Limited, which was formed by the German citizens. There was a German company and they set up a new company, Daimler Company Limited in England. कहाँ पे बनाई उन्होंने company? They make a company, Daimler Company Limited in England for the manufacturing for the rubber and tire. So manufacturing and production of rubber and tire this company was doing, but the company was being run by the German citizens. All the entire management and control was in the hand of German citizens, but it was an England-based company. So there was a German company which was doing in the production and manufacture of rubber and tire, and they had another company in England, that is Daimler Company Limited, with which they were doing business. Now, during this First World War situation, when England was having a war with Germany, this Continental Rubber Tire was another company in England. This Continental Rubber Tire was another company in England, and they had to pay certain debts towards Daimler Company Limited. So Continental Rubber and Tire Company Limited, children, it was another company. It was an England-based company, and Daimler Company in England again has done certain transactions with Continental Tire and Rubber Company, and now Continental had to pay to the Daimler Company Limited. So what happened in this case law story? Twist, मजा क्या आया इसमें? Continental Tire and Company said, we are having a war with you. Now we will not pay you the money. So Daimler Company said, you are having war with Germany. We are to England-based company. Why are you not paying to us? So they went to the court. There was this Mr. Lawyer, judge जो उनके थे. So they told him that, listen, we are an England-based company. Daimler Company ने कहा, we are an England-based company. Continental Rubber Tire should pay our money. But Continental Rubber Tire told this man that, look, they are Daimler Company Limited, but the entire management and control is in the hand of German citizens. Therefore, this German citizens and Daimler Company should be regarded as one company. We are not different. Whenever you are having any such kind of alien enemy relationships, then law says the real character of the company has to be seen. So in such a case, the corporate veil, so this Mr. Lawyer, he picked up the corporate veil and he said that Daimler Company Limited is having the entire management and control in the hand of German citizens. Therefore, although it is an England-based company, but the shareholders are from Germany, so it will be regarded as one and they will be considered to be a German-based company. Because Germany में उन्होंने base बनाया था ना, manufacturing and everything was happening in Germany, and they formed another company in England, but it was being run by the company in Germany. So they said this Daimler Company Limited will be considered the company being run by German citizens. Therefore, now Continental, any contract made between Daimler and Continental has become void. Therefore, now they are not bound to pay the money. So therefore, Continental Tire and Rubber Company was waived off from paying their debts because of the alien enemy relationship created between these two companies. अब आपका सीधा सवाल आएगा कि मैम हमने ये सारा केस लॉ लर्न करना है, तो उसका आंसर है नहीं बेटा, आपने सारा केस लॉ लर्न नहीं करना है. You simply have to remember that, in exam entire facts will be given to you. Everything will be there. The story will be narrated. That look, a war, world war or any kind of war is going on between two countries. Can you do a trading between them? So you simply have to write, if any corporate whale situation occurs, you have to determine the character of the company. You have to find out whether the company with whom we are trading is our enemy or a friend. If it is a friend, trading is possible. If it is an enemy, no further trading is possible. It says if the public interest is not likely to be in jeopardy, the court may not be willing to crack the corporate share. We have to see whether the company is an enemy company. Unlike natural person, a company does not have a mind of its own. Therefore, it is being run. It says company is just having a separate existence, but it does not have a mind of its own. It cannot be a friend or enemy. Foe means enemy. कहते हैं वो तुम्हारी दुश्मन या दोस्त नहीं हो सकती है. You have to see the affairs are under the control of which people. So if the affairs of the company were under the control of an enemy country, therefore the court has to see the real character who are running the affairs of the company. So whatever we have discussed, write it in your own words briefly. Nobody will stop you from writing in your own words. Definitely it is not mandatory to write from the study material. We have to do from the study material, but word to word statements are not compulsory. You can definitely write it in your own words. So children, have you understood? Daimler Company Limited, formed by German citizens in England, was trading with Continental Tire and Rubber Company during the First World War situation. Continental Tire and Rubber Company had to pay the debts. Now they will not pay to Daimler Company. Why? Because Daimler Company Limited was being managed by the German citizens and they were having a war with Germany. Therefore, corporate veil was lifted and German citizens and German company were regarded as one. Another interesting case law is to protect the revenue. Now, what is the meaning of protecting the revenue or taxes? It says there is another leading case law, Dinshaw Manekchi Peckett. कहने को तो उन्होंने 3 names दिए हुए हैं, but this is the leading case law again, which we'll be understanding, which is again based on a very, very interesting story. First of all, to protect children, let's take a small 2 minutes break. I would like to take in between over here. I need to just clear my throat. Let's take a 2 minutes break. So I'm glad those who have written, we have clearly understood both the cases of Salomon and Continental Company. Good, Mr. Yajit Sen, that's correct. So I hope I'm connected to the students, right? All right. So, Ms. Vanshika Gupta, there is nothing that you have to learn the entire case law. You simply need to remember that whenever we are having any kind of alien enemy relationships with any other country, then we cannot do any contract with the citizens of that country. That's it. So those who are asking me, ma'am, sometimes very funny queries come up. Ma'am, if all the shares the holders are in England only, they're not in Germany, if they have taken the citizenship of that, why do you want to assume the situations? You simply have to remember that if I am having any war kind of situation with another country, then you're not supposed to trade with the citizens of that country. And if you trade any contracts, say for example, if I am country A and you country B and I trade with you, and tomorrow A and B countries are having a war. So whatever contracts we have made will become void. And now there is no debts that can be paid to each other. So simply this is what you have to remember. So in corporate way, you have to simply remember that we have to see the real character of the company. So since the company was, although it was based in England, but it was being run by the German citizens and German company has only opened up a new company. So therefore they were considered as one and the corporate bill was lifted. Now this is another very interesting case law. So listen carefully. Okay. Thank you, Mayur. Nice. Good. Pushpa. Applicability of, now we cannot take up the entire lecture in Hindi again. First, let me complete, children. Okay. Dinshaw Managee Pettit. To protect revenue or evade taxes means sometimes what we people try to do is if you're having huge incomes, then what do you have to pay on that? Tell me, children, what do you have to pay on the incomes? Can we simply eat the incomes? We get so many salaries and incomes and then we don't pay tax on that? Definitely. Have you heard the budgets also recently? You need to pay the taxes on whatever income you get. So what is a tax? Tax is a return given to the government on your income. So you have to pay the taxes on your income, whatever income you're earning, as per the provisions of the Income Tax Act, you need to pay the tax to the government. So now law says if anybody is trying to cheat with the revenue of the government, if you are trying to, evade the taxes, means if you're trying to avoid the taxes, then that is not done. In such a case also your corporate veil is lifted. Now this Dinshaw Managee Pettit also did a very, very interesting thing. What he was doing is, number one, he was having a huge income by the way of interests and dividends. So he was having a huge investments and he was getting the income by the way of interest and dividends. So what is the meaning of income by the way of interest and dividends? Means if I am investing my money, what do I get in return? I get interest. And if I invest my shares, I get dividend on the basis of that. So this Mr. Dinshaw was getting huge income by the way of interest and dividends. So those who were asking me, ma'am, simpler way mein case law likhwa do. You can write down the summary of this Dinshaw case only. So point number 2, he invested these profits in 4 different companies. So उसने क्या करा? Whatever money he was earning by interest and dividends, he invested it in 4 different companies and later on took a loan from these companies. So Salomon and Continental were not only the smart companies, this Mr. Dinshaw was also very smart. What is he doing? He's earning the income, made 4 companies, put his income in the 4 companies and then took a loan from those companies. And this loan, children, was never repaid. Am I doing any kind of cheating? What he was doing, he was simply avoiding to pay taxes on his income. Now, when my income will be there, you will see in my profit and loss account, a lot of income is coming. I need to pay taxes on that. So as a chartered accountant, when you will go and you'll review the balance sheets and financial statements, you'll try to help the people to find out how much income you have earned and how much tax you need to pay. So if somebody has hidden that income, they took up that income and he invested, he said, I've formed 4 companies and now in the books he's showing that I'm taking loan from those companies and he never repaid that loan. So what he was doing, he was simply rotating his money. He was only circulating his money. So when we say a company is merely a sham, that means a company was not doing any business. These 4 companies were totally a cloak. They were not doing any kind of business. They were just formed up to evade taxes. In such a case, law said, they went to Mr. Dinshaw, Mr. Lawyer came and he said, what is this happening? What are you trying to do? You're trying to cheat. कानून की आंखों में धूल झोंक रहे हो. Law के साथ धोखा करना चाहते हो आप. What are you trying to do, Mr. Dinshaw? He said, you're earning income and you're investing in these 4 companies. Who are these 4 companies? They're not doing any business. So Mr. Dinshaw said, then why don't you go and ask those companies? Haven't you read Harleen ma'am has not taught you corporate veil theory? She was telling me that we are different. I am a shareholder. I am different. My company are different. Just go and get hold of those companies. Why don't you go and ask them? He said, which 4 companies? You are the only master behind them. And what that kind of business those companies are doing? Where are the assets? These companies are just getting the income and then you're taking the income back in the form of a loan. You're not even repaying the loan. So if such a kind of circulation of money is happening, law said we will lift the corporate veil, and all these 4 companies and Mr. Dinshaw were regarded as one and the same person, and Mr. Dinshaw was held liable in such cases. So law says it's not very easy. You cannot say that we have learned the concept of shareholders being different from corporate personality, तो हम कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. तो कुछ भी करने से पहले legal होना बहुत जरूरी है. So if it is not legal, if you are evading the provisions, if you are trying to avoid the taxes, then the corporate will be lifted and the shareholders behind the companies will be held liable. Learn ho gaya Dinshaw wala case. It's very, very simple. I have November 2019 question also for all of you so that we can discuss how a case study come on the basis of this case. Another is Guilford Motor Company versus Horn. Now, this is also very, very interesting. Fraud and misconduct ka case. Third case law. So Dinshaw was second, Daimler Company was first, second Dinshaw, and third is Guilford Motor Company versus Horn. So there was Mr. Horn, who was an employee in a company. So he was an employee in Guilford Motor Company, and when he left this company, so children, I told you when we are leaving a partnership firm also, then we have certain restrictions that you cannot do the similar kind of business. समझाया था ना मैंने आपको? Restrictions on leaving the firm. Similarly, as an employee, if you are leaving a company, so Horne was working as an employee in Guilford Motor Company. He signed a contract with this company that once I leave your company, I will not be attracting your customers. Means whosoever your customers, I will be doing a different business. I will not compete with you and I will not try to take your customers to my company. But he breached the condition. He formed a company and he was soliciting all the customers of his previous employer. Again, वही story. Law said, hello, Mr. Horn, what are you doing? You made an agreement and now you're breaching that agreement. You have formed a company and with your company, you're doing a cheating. So again, Mr. Horn said, my company is at fault. Why don't you go and hold him liable? So it was held that in case of any fraud or misconduct, company cannot do any fraud or misconduct on its own. It's you, the mastermind behind that. So that's why Horn was held liable, because he was trying to attract or solicit the customers of his previous employment, which is not at all applicable, which is not at all allowed. It is not done. It was held any misconduct if your company is doing, then the corporate veil will be lifted and shareholders who are behind the companies will be held liable. When Mr. Horne was saying these things, you should hold my company liable, children, do you think the company would have went home to ask for business? कि company खुद चलकर जाएगी क्या? Mr. Horne नहीं करा ना जो भी गड़बड़ करा. So that's why law held that now Mr. Horne and this company that you have formed will be held as one person and corporate veil was lifted. समझ गए? Similarly, in other 2 cases, which you'll simply give a reading from your study material, it says avoiding any legal obligation. So avoid any legal, when we talk about avoiding labor laws, let me take these 2 points also from study, because then you'll keep asking. So corporate entity to evade taxes, this is disregarded. Jugilal versus Commissioner of Income Tax, this is another name given. Again, there are 3 kind of names given. Those who are asking, ma'am, which name we can remember? Dinshaw Manakshi Pettit is the name that you can remember. Even if you don't remember the name of the case law, children, the story is important so that you know what you have to write the answer in. Avoiding a legal obligation. So another case law which says Workmen of Associated Rubber Industry versus Associated Rubber Industry Limited. Now what happened in this company was simple. You have to remember that they were forming a company and they were having huge profits. Now year after year the profits were coming, and generally in labor law it is written, whenever you are having a profits in such kind of industry, you need to pay the bonus to your workers. Now, they were not paying the bonus to the workers. In fact, they were investing the profits of the company in the other shares of another company. So they were forming a subsidiary company and they said, now we have invested the entire money. We're not having any profits. Therefore, dividend income did not find the place in the profit and loss. Hence, there was no surplus to be paid as a bonus to the workers. So what are they trying to do? They're again trying to evade a legal obligation. Avoiding a legal obligation means जब law ने कह दिया है that you have to pay the bonus to the workers, and here you are creating a subsidiary company in order to hide away your profits and dividends, and you're not paying bonus to the workers. This is not done. In such a case, the subsidiary company that you have formed and the shareholders behind that will be treated as one. Separate legal entity concept will not be allowed, and you have to pay back to your shareholders. Similarly, fourth one is the case of Merchandise Transport Limited versus British Transport Commission. It says if you are forming any subsidiaries to act as an agent. So sometimes companies are regarded as an agent of the trustee or another company. They have lost its individuality. So it says if you're just forming the subsidiaries to act as an agent, it will be considered as one and the same company. So you can simply give it a fair reading. Merchandise Transport Limited. In this case, they have said a transport company wanted to obtain license for its vehicle, but they could not do so if applied in its own name. So there was a company who wanted to obtain license and they were not able to do it in own name. Therefore, they formed a subsidiary company. Now, after forming the subsidiary company, the application of license was made in the name of subsidiary company and the vehicles were given to them. So law says if you're trying to do, if you could not apply in your own name, you have formed a subsidiary, you're trying to cheat anyone. In such cases, in such commercial units, you were treated as one and the applications got rejected. So simply where you're trying to create a subsidiary to act as in your agent, any kind of fraudulent action is involved, then law will lift up the corporate bill. So case number 3 and 4 is related to your subsidiaries. Case number 1, 2 and 5, we have already discussed in my notes as well. All right, children. So I hope you have understood today's case laws, and let's have a small quiz quickly so that I know how much you remember. Is company different from its shareholders? True or false? Saurabh saying you simply have to see if the friend company is from an alien country. If you're having a war kind of relationships, then you cannot do any trade with them. Even if he's your friend. Alien enemy means countries have to be seen, not your personal relations. Mr. Sayyid Salim, I'll just teach you how to present the answer of case study. Yes, Mr. Danish, you can write in your own words as well. So are you answering me for this one, children? First, you answer me these 2 questions and then you can send me your queries also. Okay, definitely it's true. Only Mr. Mayur, you are wrong. A company is different from its shareholders. The answer is correct. Those who have written true, well done. This is what is known as the concept of separate legal entity. Mr. Shivam Gupta, you're also wrong. Rest, everyone is correct. Thank you, Dhairya Verma. Okay. So, Ms. Pushpa, Banking Companies Act has to follow the Banking Regulation Act, but Companies Act are also applicable to them. If there is any difference between what Banking Regulation and Companies Act is saying, then banking companies have to follow their respective act, that is Banking Companies Regulation Act. Okay. All right. Next one is again a very simpler one for all of you. A company ABC Limited has 5 directors and all the directors met with an accident and died. Will ABC Limited come to an end? It comes to an end or it continues to exist as it has a perpetual succession? What do you answer in that? Mr. Kaushik, depends what kind of business you're doing. Khushi, that's correct. Sangeeta Chaudhary, that is correct. Miss Talat, you're again sending a wrong answer. True was the correct answer. Arnab, true is the correct answer. All right. Miss Riddhi. Okay. Unit 3 partnership notes. Sunil Yadav is saying that he's not able to see that. Please confirm. Others also. Aren't you able to see the partnership Unit 3 notes? Let me know. I'll try to figure it out at the back end why they're not visible. All right. The correct answer is A or B? B, company continues to exist as it has a perpetual succession. Those who are asking the meaning of perpetual means continuity. Succession means it will continue to exist. It will not just stop unless and until its name is removed from the registrar of companies. Very well done. All of you have sent the correct answer for this. And this is another one. ABC Private Limited has opened by Mr. A just to distribute the income that he's earning by the way of interest and dividends to evade taxes. In your opinion, children, is it advisable to lift the corporate way? What do you think? ABC Private Limited company was opened by Mr. A. He wants to divide his income and he's trying to evade the taxes. What do you think an action has to be taken? Do we need to lift the corporate veil or no, the company is different from its members and veil should not be lifted? Okay, Ms. Priyanka and Mayur, I will just try to check it out. Thank you for confirming. All right, Mr. Abdul, that's correct. Please give me the answer for third one. I would appreciate if you can name the case law as well. All right, absolutely correct. Yes, the veil should be lifted with reference to case law of Dinsham Manekchi Petit, where we have formed the companies and he's just trying to create a fraud. That's absolutely correct. Good. All of you have written this correct. So that's great. Maximum number of members under a private company. We have not done it yet. But anyone has any idea? This is something which we are yet to do. Okay, let's not do these types of companies. We'll be starting in the next session about this. So in case you have any queries, children, we have 5 to 10 minutes. Yes, Miss Mansi Kumari, Himang, Divedi, Bharat, Komal, all of your answers are correct. Well done, Khushi Bakshi. Okay, we have one case law discussion also I thought to do with all of you. Meanwhile, you can send up your queries, children. We have 10 minutes still left. Although we don't have, but I generally try to take more 10 minutes with all of you. Okay, so here is a case study. Those who are looking for the answers, how you have to write. So children, this is November 2019 question paper. So did I tell you how much marks? So generally around 13 to 15 marks question paper comes from Companies Act. So this is basically question number 6, part C is from 3 marks questions which generally come from your Companies Act. Okay. An assessee had large income in the way of dividend and interest. In order to reduce his tax liability, he formed 4 private limited company and transferred his investment in exchange of their shares. Income earned by the companies was taken back by him as a pretended loan. Can A be regarded as separate from the private company that he has formed? Answer me, children. 3 marks question, examination question. You have to answer me. Well done, BK Mohan Krishna, Lovish, Rajpal, Shiba Khan, Deepshikha, Riddhi, Saurabh, Shambhavi, Arjun, Alfia, all of you, Ayushi, Lageshwar, Piyush, Dipanshi, Sridhar, great. Jyoti Jha is also answering for the 200 members in private company. Okay, don't worry. Don't leak out the answers. We'll be asking you in the next class. Thank you, Sangeeta Chaudhary, Vanshika. Okay, children, can you tell me about this one? LLP and private limited, Jyotija, definitely they have a difference. Once we'll understand what is private limited company, you will come to know. Every company is different from limited liability partnership, children. You must have done the differences between LLP and partnership, LLP and company. So all the companies are different. Mr. Bharat IG, it's not compulsory to write the names of the case law, but obviously if you write the name, it will give a good impression. Okay, children, are you answering me for this one? Dheeraj Kumar, we will not be discussing specifically what happens in the Yes Bank case. We will only restrict to our study material. Mr. Kaushik Raval, you can find it out. Corporate veil should be lifted. Shiba Khan, Sivastri. Okay, definitely that's correct answer. Corporate veil needs to be lifted. And Mayur Gupta is also correct, giving me an answer of the name of the case law, Dinshaw Petit Manikji. So what happened in this particular, how you have to represent the answer? You simply have to write. See now how the answer has been given, children. None of you told me that, ma'am, Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited tells you that a company is different from its members. Which case law tells you that the company is different from its members? He's defining, he's telling you, although Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited tells you that the company is separate from its members. So point number one, how you have to write your answers. Number one point should be like this, or maybe first paragraph, that it is laid in this particular case law that the company has a separate, distinct identity from its members. Second paragraph will be, however, under these circumstances, separate entity can be ignored. Why it can be ignored? Because court ignore the corporate identity and look behind the real face and tries to hold the persons who are in control of the management. ये सब आप अपने words में लिख सकते हो. Nobody is stopping you from writing in your own words. You simply have to tell where the company is incorporated and formed by certain persons. You have to see if he is trying to evade the taxes, corporate veil can be lifted. And then he is giving you the entire instance of Dinshaw Manikji. And then it gives you a conclusion that in the instant case, 4 private limited companies formed by A, the assessee are simply for avoiding taxes. They were not doing anything. The whole idea was to split his income. No other business was done. Therefore, A cannot be regarded separate from the private limited companies that he has formed. So you understood, children, how you have to write your answer is number 1 paragraph will be the concerned provision. Please mark it down. The concerned provision where you will give the reference of Salomon and Salomon Company Limited. Write it in your own words. What is basically the meaning of separate legal entity and how it was defined under Salomon case. Then you will give the second paragraph writing about the facts of the case. With the reference of Dinshaw, you can simply write because he has given you the same facts, exactly same facts the examiner has given you. So second paragraph will be facts of the case and third paragraph is conclusion. So this paragraph is your conclusion. Try writing it down in your own words. You have a weekend coming up. So the homework for all of you is try writing down this answer in the same way that I have told you. And please revise your case laws. And as I promised, I'll be asking you one quick question. Can anyone tell me the name of the case law which was deciding about the trading with the alien enemy? So where I have to determine the character of the company to find out whether it is a friend or an alien enemy. What is the name of that case law? I'll be announcing the winner and then we'll be closing it. Thank you so much. Bharat IG, Komal, thank you so much, children. Are you telling me the names? Yes, you can underline the main points, Mr. Sanket. Nobody stops you in that. Shambhabi, not just the conclusion has to be written. It has to be written in the 3 paragraphs just I told you. And on this Sunday, your weekend, the homework is try reading the question paper from the exam and try writing it down in your own words in these kind of 3 paragraphs. Okay, tell me the name of the case law, trading with the alien enemy. And I'm just switching it off because you have another class coming up after this. Excellent. तो चैलेंज एक्सेप्ट करा था और प्रूव कर दिया. Shibha, Dainesh, Khushi, Saurabh Singh, Rajit, Shibham, Piyush, Mayur, Gupta, Priyanka, Vanchika, all of you are correct. Daimler Company Limited versus Continental Tire Company. That's absolutely correct. So since you have learned the name of the case law, Salomon also we applied, Dinshaw, Pettit, Banerjee, we applied twice in the examples. This one also you have remembered. Next time I'll be taking a test of Guilford Motor Company versus Horn as well. So glad you have learned all the case laws also along with this. So please revise, children, so that it gets retained in your subconscious mind. Goodbye. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you.